Michael Burns is wondering if it's time for IBM. Well, over the past 8 years, the technology sector has enjoyed a historic rally. Internet companies, software vendors, and chipmakers all rallied as demand soared for computing power and applications. Unfortunately, IBM did not take part in that rally. Instead, IBM stock dropped 24%. IBM is the only U.S. tech company currently valued at $100 billion or more to lose value in this period. So, let's take a look. As you view this chart, IBM was the only company to lose value over the past 8 years. Shares of the 16 most valuable tech companies gained anywhere from 64% for Qualcomm to 3,468% for Netflix. However, last Thursday, IBM announced that the current CEO is stepping down and will be replaced. The replacement is Arvind Krishna, who has been leading the cloud and cognitive software business and spearheaded the $34 billion acquisition of Red Hat, which closed last year. While IBM has made big bets, including the Red Hat deal and investing heavily in cloud computing and artificial intelligence, IBM has failed to capture significant market share. Arvind has been named as the right CEO for the next era at IBM. He's a technologist who has played a significant role in developing key technologies such as artificial intelligence, cloud, quantum computing, and blockchain. Arvind has grown IBM's cloud and cognitive software business and led the largest acquisition in the company's history. The question now is, can Arvind make IBM successful? Well, let's take a look at our charts. And so now we're looking at a 20-year monthly chart on International Business Machines, and the symbol is IBM. For disclosure purposes, I do not hold any shares of IBM at this time. Now looking at the price chart, here's what's interesting to me. Not all cycles show up in the oscillators. So let's just go through this. Here's a long-term cycle. Moving on down here, moving on up in the improvement, and then back down again to a potential bottoming process. And are we just turning on up? Well, let's get back to that. Let's first go back here. And in this downtrend, let's just say pick this point here and this point here. Perhaps that's similar to this point there and that point there. And then the bottom, what about this bottom? Going back up, we had a bounce, we hit that, and we hit that. And what about here and here? And then it hit bottom here and here. We don't have a double bottom, but we have this here. And then in the acceleration, we have this point there, and then this point there. So right now, we're here and maybe heading on up. So perhaps we haven't moved on up to hit this point there yet. We're just perhaps on our way. So that's something that you want to keep in mind as this thing moves forward. But I like the cycle. Here also from 2002 or even 2009, you have a decent uptrend. Even though IBM hasn't made money in the last 8 years or so, the price chart does look good, reasonably enough from 2009. So even with all of this bad news, it's still up from that point in time. So let's come back to that. Now moving down here into the MACD, we can see the top at that point there, and then the bottom here with this next bottom here. So this one in 2016, early 2016, moved on up here in late 2018. So some improvement there. And it looks to me that this is bottoming here and going to head up. The fast line and the slow line are both moving on up toward that zero line with the fast line above the zero line, again heading on up. So I like that. Good performance. Into the histogram, pretty much what we just saw. Price rate of change, same thing. Nice bottoming process. We are above that zero or midline, heading on up. Same thing is echoed in the RSI. Nice bottoming process here. We're at a moderate 59.13, but it looks like it's heading on up. Into stochastics, nice bottoming process. We're not up into that overbought territory between the 80 and the 100 yet, but it's moving on up. Volume looks fine. And then the Williams, same thing. Nice bottoming process, and on up we go. So back up to the price chart. So the things are that the long-term cycle that you can see there, I think is working. And the shorter-term cycle, we may or may not have a similar move such as we had here with the down and then the back on up again, because right now we do show we're heading on up, at least in my opinion. Are we going to come back down again? Who's to say? So if you're in this for the long term, that may not matter, but it's a possibility that you need to be aware of. You also need to conduct your fundamental analysis. Make sure those numbers look good to you. And if you're in it for the long term, I think you're going to be okay. International Business Machines does indicate an opportunity. So look at it closely and look at those fundamentals. And for today, that's ChewDog Charts. Thank you.